Now, back to more of Behind the Scenes at the Hanover Theater. And your host, Lisa Condon.
Thank you all for listening today. I'm excited to be having this behind-the-scenes conversation with Steve Edlund. He's the director of A Bronx Tale and has quite the Broadway resume. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me, Lisa.
Absolutely. I was lucky enough to see A Bronx Tale when it was on Broadway, and we're very excited that it's coming to the Hanover Theater January 16th through January 19th. It is part of our Broadway series, and its particular run with us is sponsored by Bank of America. But boy, you have quite the list of credits to your name, Steve. and
packing a lot in a very short period of time.
Right? And I have to say, we will totally talk about A Bronx Tale, but when I looked you up, and for our listeners, go check out StephenEdlund.com because your website is wonderful. And look at that, the resume, upcoming shows, classes and coachings.
Thank you very much.
How did you get to A Bronx Tale from Hello, Dolly and the meteor shower and...
2 words, Jerry Zaks.
Oh.
Jerry Zaks is a brilliant, genius legend of a Broadway director who took me under his wing when I was working with him in Los Angeles on a musical based on Randy Newman's music in fall of 2010. And when I was working on that show, he said, if you move to New York, you can be my assistant director on Sister Act the Musical on Broadway. And that show moved me to New York and began what is now a 9-year relationship that I've had with Jerry, working on all of his productions. And it's been, to say that it's been my graduate school and my PhD program would be an understatement.
That is so exciting. What was it that gave that spark to the relationship, obviously, when you first met, and then you must have just blown his socks off and he realized you needed to follow him everywhere?
I knew that my job was to help Jerry be the best that he could possibly be at his job, and to support him and to give him the support system in the room to do his brilliance, you know. And so I've over the years established a shorthand where I knew exactly what he wanted in anticipating the rehearsal room and the way he liked it and the way he liked his preview process to be run. And it was a wonderful learning experience he is a master of his art, and I am truly the humble student in this situation.
He is so lucky to have you, for somebody to be dedicated and talented like that. So talk to us about your journey with A Bronx Tale.
So A Bronx Tale, Jerry and I started on in 2014 when we attended a reading of the musical version. Jerry had previously worked on the one-man show with Chaz Palminteri, and in conceiving it as a musical, they brought on Jerry to help shape the show. And over the course between 2014, 2015, 2016, we shaped the show through various readings, a lab, production at Paper Mill Playhouse, and eventually brought it to the Broadway show that it became.
Well, it is a really great story. It's a really great musical. A lot of people compare it to some of the other musicals out there, but I feel like it's fresher and more alive than I know it gets compared to Jersey Boys a lot. How would you describe it in your words to somebody who hadn't seen any Broadway show before?
I would say
tough.
No, it's a good question. I would say that Bronx Tale is the story of a 17-year-old named Calogero who grew up in the Bronx, and he is on the brink of becoming an adult. And it's about the people in his life and in his world in 1968 that ultimately shaped the person that he became. And in many ways, because this story is based on Chaz Palminteri's life, it is Chaz's childhood that we are seeing through this lens of this show and the people that affect him, and in particular, his father, Lorenzo, and his father figure, Sonny, the mob boss in the area.
You know, there are so many touching moments and really great numbers in this musical. I used to ask what would be your top one, but I realize that's way too hard of a question for people to answer. So if you had to pick, say, 3 different really wonderful moments that the audiences should look for, what would you choose?
Oh, the first one that comes to mind is the number, one of the great ones. It happens in Act 2, and it's features Sonny, and it's in the moment in which, if people know the movie, it's where he teaches Calogero the Sonny test, which plays a big part in Act 2. It's a great moment. There's also a wonderful number in the middle of Act 1 called I Like It, a wonderful song written by Alan Menken and Glenn Slater that features the young version of Calogero at about 9 years old, singing about how everything is starting to happen to him in the neighborhood because he's been befriended by the mob boss Sonny. And the last part, you know, there's let me think about this one for a second. There's a really wonderful song that ends Act 1 called These Streets that is sung by Lorenzo, Calogero's father, that never fails to give me chills up my arms and the back of my neck. It is an incredibly impassioned song of a father trying to connect with his kid, struggling to connect with his kid as many kids, you know, do, disconnect with their parents as their parents become uncool when they're in high school. And then there's this other figure of Sonny who is so much more, has an attractive lifestyle that's exciting to this kid, and the conflict that arises because of the two. And to me, it's so beautifully encapsulated in this song.
I think those are all really wonderful moments. And, you know, one of the things that I love most about this particular show, A Bronx Tale, is I love the fact that it's based on a true story. And I think the fact that it is based on a true story adds so much more grit and reality and compassion. And it is so easy to see what's lovable and also despicable to some degree about each of the characters. Although, hey, the mother, there's nothing despicable about her, right?
No, not at all.
No, and despicable is too strong of a word. It's really what makes everybody so lovable and humble and attractive, all very complicated emotions. And it's told, like you said, from a young man's perspective. So it really does take that transition from, you know, when you're small and children really worship their parents and they believe everything they say is true, to when they're tempted by the cooler things in life or what appear to be the cooler things, and there's that struggle between doing the right thing and doing the fun thing. So it's really a great story.
I think there's also a wonderful theme of infallibility and perceived infallibility that, you know, to some degree, certain people in our life, our parents, you know, when we're younger, we think are perfect. They're incapable of making mistakes. And I think with part of Calogero's journey in all of this is people that he thought are perfect, he realizes they're imperfect, and that's okay. It's our imperfections that make us wonderful. And the song that he ends the show with, The Choices You Make Shape Your Life Forever, it's to say that you're going to make lots of choices, and sometimes you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay, you know. And each of these characters at some point, you know, crosses the line a bit or loses their temper a little bit and wishes they could have not lost their temper, or says something that they shouldn't have said and wish they could have just taken it back, or said that one thing to that person that they never got to.
It's so true.
To me, watching people like this connect and struggle to connect, you know, despite their differences and their mistakes, is the best theatrical spectator sport.
Absolutely. So here we're talking with Steve Edlin. He's a director with A Bronx Tale, which is coming to the Hanover Theater January 16th through the 19th. It is part of our Broadway subscription series. More information, of course, is available at the Hanover Theater. We spell theater with an RE.org. Thank you so much for your time. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
Come see A Bronx Tale.
Absolutely. Oh, I know it's going to be a hit. I know our audience is really excited about it. So again, thank you so much, Steve. Everybody else, stay tuned. We'll be back after this quick break here on Behind the Scenes with the Hanover Theater.